right.
Gentlemen, I've brought you here to discuss the Eastwood problem.
Yeah, I've been speaking with Jacinda Ardern that we need to eliminate the threat of Vinny Eastwood.
Why do you say Vinny Eastwood when it's clearly Winnie Eastwood? The Vinny Eastwood Show, live Saturday and Sunday at 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Ground Zero Plus.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and hermaphrodites. The Vinny Eastwood Show is bad news. It's like the news, but so much worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're getting exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed, man? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes. Like, they're really bad, man. Anyway.
You see, this beastly, ghastly show has been exposing our scumbaggery, which we call necessary. Yeah, and that's the World Economic Future.
This is High Vibe Tribe number 21, I believe. And wow, I have with me today Vinny Eastwood. Any relation to Clint? I know you used to say make my day. Third cousin. Okay, there isn't a. I mean, it's not a very common name.
Allegedly, that's so my mum tells me. But as the saying goes, there are two famous Eastwoods in the world. One of them is Vinny Eastwood, and the other is that other guy.
Yes, you by far are the most famous Eastwood that I know of in the current times, especially from New Zealand. You know what? I love your Grokkopedia bio here. It says you're a conspiracy theorist, an activist recognized for your involvement in the alternative media and protests against you know what in 2021, and that you co-organized unlawful love that word gatherings with Billy Te Kahika.
That was very good. That was a very good attempt at the pronunciation. I got to give you that.
Attempt, you said. So I obviously didn't do that perfectly. That's Maori, right?
Oh yeah.
How do you say it? Te Kahika?
Well, if you want to pronounce it syllabic,
I want to pronounce it correctly.
Te Kahika.
I'll just let you say it.
Yeah.
Doesn't New Zealand have one of those like ridiculously long name towns? I forget what it was, but it was like 50 letters long or something. It was a Maori name.
Probably. I can't remember the name of it off my hand, but we've got Whakatane.
Who can?
We've got a town called Whakatane.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. And Whanganui, and they're all spelled with W's and H's for some reason instead of an F. And Māori doesn't have an S sound in it, so if you want to, as the colonists said to them, cheers, the Māori could only reply, chur. And that's why Māori say chur. Chur, bro. All right. So,
wow. I had no idea that any language didn't have an S sound. That's quite unique.
Well, we often imitate the sounds of things around us, and because there's no snakes in New Zealand to do that kind of thing, there's no S sound in the language. I mean,
wow.
I could be making that up. In fact, I probably am. But
sounds good to me. I believe it. So, I love your bio on your own website. It's like one of the best I've ever seen. Starts off, welcome ladies, gentlemen, and hermaphrodites. You're all inclusive. My fellow slaves of the global plantation. How's that truth in advertising? And the Vinny Eastwood Show is bad news. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but yeah, you do like to dwell in some of the darkness that goes on in the world, as do I. Anybody who's like paying attention goes there, right? It's the lighter side of genocide. Well, welcome to the show, Vinny Eastwood. How are you?
You know, I'm astonishing.
You are astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
What have you been up to lately? I used to watch you back in the day, like more than 2 years ago, until I had to deal with a medical situation that totally disrupted my reality. And I can't say I've gotten back into the swing of things until fairly recently. But you haven't done a lot of shows lately, have you?
This is actually the first time I've had my show kitted up and my whole studio set up to do a broadcast in 14 months. So yeah, you're popping the cherry tonight there, Mike.
What's up with the 14 months? Were you? I know you're like one of the most censored dudes in all of New Zealand. Is that the reason?
They deleted Skype, which was how I did all my shows, and it was a big blow to lose my entire Rolodex of possible guests, sort of thing, as well as many issues in my personal life. And I think the longest break I'd ever had from the show before was 6 months, because when you're doing this kind of work, and if you truly care and you truly listen, it affects you. And you need to be able to take time off, sometimes significant portions of time off, in order to bring yourself back from that darkness, sort of thing. You know, as a bit of a comedian, the job is to make light of the darkness.
This is true. So you're finally emerging from the deep hole you sank into, it looks like. So you know what? New Zealand is one of those places. I live in California, USA. It's not one of the most talked about places in the United States, but I hear it's quite bad there now. Is that the truth?
I would say it's been pretty bad for quite some time. During the election in 2017, where we first elected our Prime Minister at the time, Jacinda Ardern, we made a documentary series called Who Are You Really Voting For?, where we opened up the past and the current parties that were running for the election, and showed that they all have a long track record of saying one thing and then completely being shown to have lied and done terrible things. Now, under election law, that's not illegal. If you blatantly lie to the public, that's perfectly legal during an election. Under New Zealand law, they can pass any law they want at 4 o'clock in the morning with no discussion in the House. Perfectly legal. Under New Zealand law, you can pass laws retroactively. So if, for example, me being one of the 80 most surveilled people during the 2015 election, where our previous Jewish Prime Minister John Key was being elected, and we were being illegally surveilled by the Government Communications Security Bureau, that's the CIA of New Zealand, and they were illegally surveying me and 79 other activists, and that was completely unlawful what they were doing. So they passed a law the next day at 4 a.m. Retroactively changing that law to make breaking the law legal. That is perfectly permissible under New Zealand electoral law. No previous government can bind any future government. So if you, for example, pass a law like the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act that guarantees you rights of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, the right to refuse medical treatments, and so on and so forth, they can just pass a law at 4 o'clock in the morning, like the COVID-19 Health Response Act, and say that you don't actually have those rights anymore. Perfectly legal. We have an elected dictatorship, so it's very different to the United States, where if a state passes a law, you can just move a state. But in New Zealand, it is one state for the whole country, so if the state passes a law, you're stuck with it, and you have to go to a completely different country in order to evade it.
Wow. That's amazing. I've always heard that New Zealand and Australia were like test grounds of the New World Order. It sounds like that is very much the case.
Back in the day, the suffragette movement gave New Zealand women the right to vote before any other Western nation did. And the reason why they tested it here is because the rest of the world was worried that if they gave women to vote, it might upset the balance of power. Women may vote differently, but they found out that the women in those days who, I'm saying in those days, man, I'm getting old, who used to vote, voted the way of their husbands. And so the political balance of power didn't change one iota. Therefore, it was a good idea to be able to claim that we were really progressive and we gave women the vote. And now everything is exactly the same as it was before, and nothing really changed. That is the unwritten law of democracy, is you can say and do anything you want so long as it doesn't change anything.
I think we're just a little more sophisticated here in how our tyranny plays out, but
same rule book, different accents.
Exactly. I mean, the U.S. basically just gets what it wants, right? It's like, okay, we're not going to pretend we're just going to go bomb your asses and, comply, bitches. It's like, that's simple. What a mad world we live in. So does that mean you are pretty much forbidden to broadcast?
No.
Have you been
I'm broadcasting.
Deplatformed?
I'm broadcasting right now. And yes, I got deplatformed. I lost.
Or you were just demoralized?
Well, both, really. You get deplatformed and that demoralizes you somewhat. I think I lost 98% of my revenue and 99.6% of my audience in one day.
Okay, that's pretty demoralizing, I have to say.
I've been trying over the last couple of years to claw it back, and so I'm up to 1.5% of my initial audience before the deplatforming, and it's taken me 2 years to get to this point. It's not been very encouraging for me to try and claw my way back, because at the time of my arrest, the bail conditions by which I was actually allowed out of prison, the police wanted to keep me in prison until my trial date, which was about 28 months later, because everything was backed up in the New Zealand court system during COVID. Luckily, I didn't have to stay in jail all that time. I was only there for 28 hours in solitary confinement with no daylight. That was pretty traumatic for me, because I've got claustrophobia and I'm 6'6", so being in a solitary cell was quite a few panic attacks. And they banned me from accessing the internet or having an internet mobile capable phone, and I had to have bail checks.
Ooh.
Bail checks in the middle of the night, like, 11 p.m., 4 a.m., 2 a.m., 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Didn't really matter. There was just a knock on the door, and they would just check, oh, yep, you're home. Okay, cool. And this is why, at the time, my wife and 1-year-old daughter were trying to sleep. So it was very traumatic for them, very traumatic for me, and it completely destroyed everything I'd ever built. I was the #1 rated YouTuber for news production in the country at that time. I outranked the mainstream media by a significant margin. And I had maybe 20,000 hours worth of content, 6,500 shows, and nearly 50,000 YouTube subscribers. and I think maybe $1,500 a month coming through Patreon, and $3,000 a month coming from YouTube, just from the super chats. That was only people donating to me, and of course when the Christchurch Mosque massacre happened in 2019, which was a highly questionable event, by the way, because it became illegal to watch the evidence, which as a journalist that became quite difficult to do my job, because I would go to jail for up to 10 years for doing the job of journalism in New Zealand. And then subsequently, because I was questioning the attack and questioning COVID, they deleted all 3 of my YouTube channels, my Patreon, my Twitter account, and my Patreon. In the case of Patreon and all of those other things, I was never warned. And in the case of Patreon, they didn't even tell me that they deleted me, right? I got messages from YouTube and the other social media platforms saying that I'd been deleted, but Patreon never even told me that I got deleted. So if anybody wants to support me, they can go to the VinnyEastwoodShow.com or search Vinny Eastwood on Patreon, or buy me a coffee, and you can support me there. Because at the moment, I think also I've been significantly focused on raising my children, Alina, who's 6, and Alfie, who is 3, and been spending so much time daddying that it's actually been extraordinarily difficult for me to get any work done, let alone keep a solid show schedule. So I'm really grateful to all those people who have actually stuck in there with me over this period and continue to support me financially so that I can feed my kids and spend time with them. I'm very, very grateful to everybody.
Might be a blessing in disguise. Spending time with your children at that age is something you can never recover. So, I'm sure you'll arise when the time is right. Mm-hmm. And you are arising, even right now.
Yeah.
You're right here.
Yeah.
We're talking about this. Have you ever thought about leaving New Zealand?
At least twice a day. It's... I
At least, right?
Well, it is said that you can't really appreciate your home country until you've been elsewhere, and I've been to a number of other countries before, but not to live, just to visit for a short period of time. And I think it's just more the fact that I haven't been able to travel. The financial burden of having to buy for plane tickets, hotels, etc., has been too significant for me, and also to pull me away from the show and the important work that I'm doing. It just wasn't feasible for quite some time. And now that I've got my kids, I really want to get them on a plane, before they turn 7. So at least that's kind of like part of their... Before the age of 7, children are on record only. They don't process anything. They don't think about anything. They just record the behavior. They record the experience as being normal. And so I'd love to be able to take them overseas and have them see that there's something outside of this accursed archipelago.
The other down under, as I call it.
The other down under.
Surely you must go to Australia at least. That's like
I've been there.
Hop, skip, and a jump away.
Yeah, it was like 3 hours on a plane, and you're suddenly there. I was talking to what was his name, Matt Bowden, about this, and he said he saw a cockroach crossing the path in front of him when he was in downtown Sydney, and he says, "Vinny, I thought it was going to ask me for my wallet."
Wow, it's gotten that bad in Australia. Ooh,
it's always been that way for 50,000 years, give or take. But
yeah, it's kind of been the renegade outpost, right?
Yep.
From day one.
By the way, if you're living in Australia right now, just want to say those 3 words that keep you all pumped up, because I love you very much. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Yeah, mate. All right. There's something. The difference between Australians and New Zealanders, our accents are very, very similar. It's just that in New Zealand, you don't move the jaw as much because it's much colder. And in Australia, you use the nasal passages more. So Australian sounds like this, mate, and New Zealand sounds like this. All right, they sound similar, but they've got a different pitch and tone for them. And one of my mates, Mike, also named Mike, of course, he lived in Australia for a while, and I've had this corroborated by a number of other people who've lived in Australia and said that Australians are significantly more positive people than New Zealanders. If you had to, I was talking to John Ansley's this award-winning ad man in New Zealand who ran a lot of successful election campaigns for the government, and he said to me the quintessential characteristic, the defining characteristic of New Zealanders is a distinct lack of enthusiasm. And I concur, even the further south in New Zealand you go, like I live in Auckland, it's near the tip of the North Island, it's about as far north as you can really go, reasonably speaking. And when I went to university, I went to Dunedin, which is almost near the tip of the South Island. And the lack of enthusiasm is absolutely real. Further south you go, the worse it gets. You're at a crate party where people are drinking huge amounts of alcohol. We've got a big drinking problem in this country, hence the reason why the country just keeps getting run by alcoholics. But never mind. I was at a crate party, and this guy from the South Island next to me goes, "Yeah, it's going to be a good night, bro." And I turned to my mate Liam from Waiheke and I go, "These guys don't seem very enthusiastic to me." And Liam says, "Are you kidding me, Vinny? I've never seen them this excited." And it's just the worst kind of thing that you can think of, to have a country full of people who have I would say a general malaise of liver issues, partly due to the drinking culture, partly due to the herbicides and pesticides in the water supply and food supply, as well as, of course, all of the artificial sweeteners, sugars, vaccines, so on and so forth. It really damaged the liver, because the first sign that you've got a damaged liver is apathy. You stop caring about anything. And that's why I believe that the government is deliberately creating the food pyramids the way that they are, and the health protocols around this country, in order to encourage liver damage. Because what can you do as a government to an apathetic population? What can you get away with? Anything you want!
So true. Don't forget the chemtrails. Geoengineering, stratospheric injections,
the stratospheric aerosol injections,
and a million other ways that we probably don't even know about yet.
That's the beautiful thing.
Same story here, just different tactics. That's about it.
Yeah, that's what I said to an American talk radio show host, is that New Zealand's very different to America. We're obsessed with sports. We've got a huge drinking culture. We're obsessed with celebrities, and we drive around in big gas-guzzling cars, and everything's getting more expensive, and people are really dumbed down and totally distracted by their phone, and the government's corrupt, and the police are militarized and authoritarian. You see, it's completely different to the United States. Okay, it's exactly the freaking same, and that's how you know we live in a new world order already.
Well, it is the freaking same in a lot of ways, but you obviously being more isolated on a couple islands, it's obviously a lot more expensive. You have to import a lot of stuff, right? It's like you don't just grow stuff.
Under New Zealand's defence budget spending, they looked at the term isolated, and isolation means you can't really get there. It's difficult to get to. Like Kilimanjaro, you're not allowed to get planes within a certain radius, so it's isolated. It's difficult to get to. You had to walk through the bush in order to get there. New Zealand is not technically isolated. It's remote. Right, so you can
good distinction.
You can get any of the things that from overseas that you want to hear. It's just that it takes a little bit longer, and the population have a slightly different laissez-faire consciousness. If you were to define the consciousness, for example, of, I don't know, if you're Californian, you will know that there are these beachfront communities that are full of retired people, right? Right? Whole town, which is basically just a big retirement community on the beach. And that is what New Zealand is the whole way round. It's a giant beach retirement community pretending to be a country.
Wow. I do hear a lot of the billionaires are seeking refuge there and building underground bunkers. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but that's what I hear.
Yeah,
Is there any truth to that you know of?
I've certainly heard that too, and I'm not sure these people have really thought about it, about the consequences of being locked underground in the dark for a generation during a great calamity alongside the world's worst psychopaths, pedophiles, and child sacrificing Satanists. Like, I'm not sure you've thought this one through, buddy. You know.
Yeah, well, I don't know if thinking things through is their forte, but they keep trying, right? Making everybody else miserable in the process, of course. But wow, yeah, New Zealand is a pedophile's den, from what I hear. But then again, it seems like all the Western nations are, to a certain extent. I mean, we created the CIA, for God's sake, and all these most horrible institutions that have been dominating the world since at least World War II, not before. And New Zealand, as a commonwealth, well, you probably had a few visits from Jimmy Savile in the past, I'm sure.
One can only hope. My man, Jimmy! So, Jimmy's back, man. Look at that big smile and his cigar, man. It could be worse. Can't possibly see how, but I'm sure it could be.
Yeah, I know. I feel like that too. Well, for those of you who don't know Vinny is like one of the funniest podcasters. He started out like totally on comedy mode, and then he kind of got serious there for a while, and then I kind of lost track of you. It sounds like you're back on track for Comedy Central.
Well, what was it that George Carlin said to Bill Hicks? He's like, Bill, if you don't make them laugh, they're going to hate you. Or words to that effect, just put in a few dick and fart jokes in there, man. I mean, come on. I know you're trying to give people philosophy, but without the dick and fart jokes, that philosophy is just not going to resonate like a fart would.
Yeah, comedy definitely makes it stick, right? It's the best. It's the best way to deliver a poison. It's like the sugar, the sweetener with the poison, or that may be the wrong way to put it.
Well, the technical way that it actually happens is, for example, right now we've been speaking for 10, 15 minutes or so, and that means the prefrontal cortex is still activated. That's the part of your brain that does black and white thinking. Okay, it's the thing that's obsessed with facts, figures. And after about 15 minutes, if we've continued to be serious, the audience's brain will lapse back into the mammalian cortex, which starts to govern your emotions, your feelings of socialization and social rules, things of that nature. And then if we keep going for another 15 minutes, the audience will then start to trigger the reptilian cortex at the base of the brainstem. And that is what governs your fight, flight, freeze, submit, and attach responses. So the way that is ordinarily communicated these things, especially if you're talking about political ponerology, is a very interesting term. I suggest people start looking at it. It's how psychopaths have seized positions of power, and they have used those positions of power to advance their own aims, specifically psychopathic individuals in positions of power. Now, they are adept at getting you to lapse synapse through that prefrontal cortex, go into mammalian and then into the reptilian, and specifically develop that attached response. Oh, he's going to save us all. We've got no problem. All we've got to do is just sit and eat popcorn. Everything's going to be fine now, because people aren't actually thinking anymore and they're not feeling anymore. They're just reacting in a survival mode. Right? That is the ideal that the people in power, for good or ill, really are trying to accomplish. Now, where humor comes in is it's a reset button. If I traumatize you with the worst, most horrific stuff for 15 minutes, your brain won't be able to handle it. You're going to start triggering in. But if I tell a joke, whatever phase your brain is in, it's going to reset directly back to the prefrontal cortex. You know, for example, I interviewed a woman named Rachel Vaughan, and she told me that her father, who was a 33-degree Freemason and a surgeon, used a curve blade to cut a hole in between her anus and her vagina and raped the wound when she was 7 years old. Now, over here, we have a very fluffy kitten, and over here, we have a very fluffy puppy. And they're best friends. And they're wrestling. They look like two fur coats in a tumble dryer. Now, you see how the horrific information doesn't settle and continue traumatizing you because your brain gets distracted by the cute thing. You see, your brain only really reacts with what it last heard. And so if you are constantly, as Socrates noted this in the early days of democracy in Greece, he found that the politicians who got up and spoke to the demos, the people, which is where democracy comes from, the ones who were most successful were the ones who got the crowd laughing on occasion, because it kept them engaged and it stopped them getting traumatized by the reality that they were trying to put across. And that is why comedians make light of the dark situation.
I think that's why George Carlin, to this day, is one of the most successful and remembered comedians.
And revered.
Of 20th century. Of all time, maybe.
Of all time, yeah.
But resonates with me. Just for that very reason. Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate it because, you know, it's like too much just dry facts will make you just like vomit. Just like make you sick. It's like you have to have that kind of cure to the tonic to the toxin type of thing.
Yeah.
And you have definitely mastered that ability. So
you take sugar.
I appreciate that.
Well, you take an apple, for example. An apple's got sugar in it, and so if you juice that apple and drink the juice, you're going to have nothing but sugar, and sugar doesn't get processed by the stomach. It gets processed by the liver, all right? Because liver processes toxins and poisons. But if you eat the apple's also, with that sugar, got fiber, and fiber neutralizes the poisonous effects of the sugar and allows the apple to be processed by your stomach. You see, you package the poison with the cure just like nature intended.
Exactly. So are you back up and starting your podcast again?
I guess today
Are you out of your funk?
I was thinking about it, and I'm like, maybe I am, bro. Like, I'm very tentatively going, what do I do? But what I need somebody to pay for my Zoom account, because back in the day with Skype, you could just call anybody anytime and talk to them for any unlimited amount of time. But now with all the different apps and everything, there's not a single app in the world that you can do what Skype did in all the ways that it could do it. Nowadays, the closest equivalent that we have is Zoom, but you have to pay for it. And because of the massive hits that I've been taking, I can't afford to do that. So if somebody wants to sponsor the show for $30 a month to pay for Zoom, I will bring the frickin' show back. I totally will.
Wow, that's how they're defeating everybody is financially. It seems like.
And I was talking to, I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, Rob Davenport from Ground Zero Radio, and he told me that if you want to survive in this business over the next coming years, tighten your belts. Live within your means, keep your costs as low as humanly possible. So that way, if they come after you and try to sabotage you financially, you will be significantly more advantaged than, say, for example, Alex Jones, who had huge running costs. Right, but as soon as they came after him with that Sandy Hook law case and all this various other stuff that he had to go through, now Infowars.com is closed. It's just closed. And that's what's problematic about this financial incendiary bombs that they're putting out that is basically akin to censorship. When you censor somebody, it's not because what they're saying isn't true, it's because you fear what they might say.
Well, actually, it is because it's the truth. They don't want it. They don't want people to know the truth. That's the problem, is because it is the truth.
I mean, that's the people like us who are getting censored, sure. But there's plenty of times where censorship I'm absolutely in full agreement with. Oh, you're killing children? You know, on a video on the internet, yeah, I think that should be censored. That kind of stuff should not be allowed to be around there, unless, of course, it's a child sacrificing thing, and you're actually doing it to expose the child sacrificing Satanists that run your country. Then it's a bit of a grey area for me.
That is a little bit of a gray area. I agree with you, though. It's like that stuff should not be seen, but should be known about, of course. Wow. So you were actually pretty big there for a while. I mean, I was just watching a video of you with Mark Passio and David Icke, of all people, like two big wigs in the truther movement, if that's what you want to call it. Just the disclosure, getting to the bare bones of it all. Do you ever appear on other shows if you're not doing your own thing?
All the time.
I haven't seen you around lately.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm Facebook friends with you. That's how I kind of keep in contact with you, but I haven't seen a lot from you. You just kind of like dropped off the radar.
Yeah, I was working on a movie. I was working on some music. I was working on a novel. I was working out, taking care of my kids. I was busy in a whole lot of other different areas because it really hurt me that all of the work that I'd done for the good of mankind could just be taken so quickly and so brutally, and leave me holding this empty sack. You know, because I know what I've done, I know where I've been, I know the amount of people that I've helped. But at this point, anybody who hasn't heard of me yet will go looking and find very, very little by comparison to how much they could have found if they'd only been searching for me as little as 7 years ago. So yeah, I tried to branch out into other areas, but none of them really panned out. So, for lack of a better choice, I'm back telling the truth, trying to save humanity.
That's what you were made for, man.
Yeah.
I see you. You don't even have 2,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yep.
And you were a lot bigger than that, like just a few years ago.
Yeah, 50,000. Yeah.
Are you on, I noticed you were on Rumble. Are you on but I didn't see that you were on like BitChute and
I'm there.
Raytheon.
Yeah, I'm not on I'm not on Raytheon. I haven't actually heard of it, but yeah, I was mostly just doing it on YouTube, and I think that was probably my Achilles heel because it wasn't backed up all my other shows on other platforms. So now, and even that, like, if people want to help me, I want to be able to get back some of those things that I lost, not only because they got lost on YouTube, but because the hard drives that I had, about 40% of the hard drives of my collection of body of work failed. and it
Oh my God.
and it costs like $50 a gigabyte to get that stuff back, even to check whether or not anything's on there. And I think we're looking at about nearly 10 terabytes of stuff at $50 a gigabyte. So you do the math. It's just like, this is a crazy freaking amount of money that is needed just to claw back stuff that was already put out there and is subsequently nowhere to be found.
That is pretty disheartening.
Yeah.
Have you been able to salvage anything off the archive.org or anything like that? I don't know how much they say.
They don't keep the videos, they don't keep the audio, they just keep the links and descriptions.
Still shots or something?
Yeah, maybe, not even still shots that I've been able to see. It's just basically, everything I've ever done was just gone. It's just gone. One of my friends, David Kelso from PSEC, told me that he had downloaded previously my entire YouTube channel's worth of content, and he may or may not still be in the process of trying to go back through the online archives to try and match up the titles and descriptions and things of that nature, but I haven't heard any progress on that for a number of years now, because it's just like, if somebody says, hey, can you find an old video, just one old video, they're like, yeah, sure, okay, can you find 6,500 old videos and do the same?
That's true. Did you have that many? 6,500? Wow.
Yeah.
Or something like that?
I was averaging 10 subscribers per video. And I at the time when I was deleted across 3 different YouTube platforms, I had 65,000 subscribers in total.
Well, I guess you have to take it as a badge of honor that you are so reviled by the powers that be. That's a sign you're doing the right thing, man. You're not the only one. There's many out there just like you.
I've had a lot of I've had a lot of people in
some people like David Icke were prescient enough to start their own channel knowing that this was probably the outcome of their truth telling. So have you ever contacted him and tried to get an Iconic or something of that nature?
Oh, I've been on Iconic a number of times, and David has been so supportive of me. I think I met him back in 2012, I think, when he came here for his conference, and I liaised with his conference manager and found the venue for them and hotels and all of that kind of stuff, because they weren't in New Zealand and they didn't know the lay of the land, but I did, and I helped them out at that time and got to speak at the end of his 10-hour conference while everybody was very sleepy and wanted to go home. But
10-hour conference.
Yeah,
that man is indefatigable.
Yeah, I believe
he's like the Energizer Bunny of the disclosure movement.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing, and it was because of him that I was inspired, that Mark Passio was inspired. So I think I had a scheduled interview with him, but of course I couldn't attend that interview because I got arrested and banned from accessing the internet for 6 weeks. And during that 6 weeks period, the year that I'd taken to set up that interview fell. So I reorganized the interview, and Mark Passio had been telling me, Mark Passio considers me a peer, and he's just fantastic, and he was telling me how much he really wanted to interview David Icke, and I couldn't get that going for him, but I had David Icke coming on my show, so I called up Mark and I said, do you want to join us? Because what do you do for your friends? What they can't do for themselves.
Pretty good present.
And it was by far the best show that I've ever done. I've done a lot of really life-changing, incredibly powerful, quite significant interviews over the years, and that is like the number one that really sticks out for me as like, man, I'm never going to top that.
Well, Mark Passio and David Icke in one show. Yeah, it's like, where do you go from there, right?
Yeah, I guess I'll have to.
You'd have to
interview Trump and Alex Jones on the same show, perhaps.
Well, they're controversial. I guess they all are. Speaking of Mark Passio, he's kind of toned down too. I don't see him that much these days.
Mark experienced at the same time that I did the same kind of disheartening experience with not only the general public, but also the global truth movement, how they would just fall for things without really thinking, right? These are people who should know better, and they just fall for things so easily, and it was really crushing for me. And then I had a private conversation with Mark, and I realized he'd actually felt exactly the same way about it. And both he and I have been taken a step back from broadcasting quite significantly to do other projects in his life and our lives. And yeah, it was quite sad to see him, because he's a man I really looked up to and learned a lot from because of his great work. And I think that there is always a time in somebody's life where you think to yourself, you know what, I've done enough.
Yeah,
I've done more in this vein than anybody else has ever done. I think I have produced... There's a number of other outlets in New Zealand that came about after I got arrested while I was banned from accessing the internet, and they all benefited from my lack of having an audience. And their audiences grew really, really massively during that 6-week period when I was banned from accessing the internet, and they have retained those audiences because they haven't been banned. Whereas I have not retained virtually any audience. All I have is my track record and my reputation. They've got the audience, but they don't have a track record. They don't have the reputation that I did. And so it was quite a big blow to me in my consciousness, just like, right here, bro, right here. That hurt. That hurt so much. But then I thought about it. What if that was a good thing that happened? What if, through my self-sacrifice in deliberately getting myself arrested for the cause of freedom in a very public way, what if, because of the suffering that I endured, for that, it inspired these people to start their operations and begin, finally, after 10 years of being the only truth broadcaster in the effing country to tell the truth in all the different spectrums of detail, I was suddenly not alone anymore. But although I wasn't alone, I didn't have an audience. It's, I've got a quote from Tom Waits' 1976 on my wall behind the computer there. The large print giveth, and the small print taketh away.
Indeed. There's another show I used to watch out of New Zealand. Was it Counterspin or Counterpunch?
Yeah, that was
something like that.
Calvin Alpin and Hannah Spera. I went on tour with them to try and help them.
Was it Counterspin?
Yeah,
Counterpunch.
It was Counterspin.
Spin. That's it. I honestly lost track of some of these things due to my own personal issues that I've had to deal with in the last 2 years. Kind of reorganized my life into a chaotic spin, and then I had to reemerge from it and kind of pick up the pieces in my own way. A lot of us are going through that these days in our own ways. Is that show still on?
I don't know, to be honest. Probably. I haven't been keeping track of the New Zealand truth movement's comings and goings and that sort of thing. I mean, I know these people personally, and I was just really... I think I was just dealing with the dark night of the soul at that point in time, and
you needed to check out, recalibrate, get your and if you have kids, that's a whole other reality that you need to focus on, of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
what was done to us forced us to become who we are.
Yeah. And it's not done being done to us, no matter where we are. It's just a little more severe where you're at.
Yeah.
I'm not finished. What is it like in New Zealand these days? I mean, if you just listen to the alt media, it's like you're all stuck in a house. You don't have electricity. You know, you're just like sitting there cowering to Big Brother. I'm sure it's not quite that bad, but obviously your freedom of speech is restricted, and obviously any lashing out against the government will result in an instant economic hardship.
Very
what
recently,
is it like there?
Just a few days ago, I believe, Bishop Brian Tamaki, who runs this organisation called Destiny Church, a very, very successful church in New Zealand here, and he's been speaking out against the mass immigration, and as a result, the New Zealand police came to his home to take all of his firearms, his perfectly legally registered hunting rifles that he keeps in a safe, as is required under New Zealand law. Now, this is far from an isolated incident whereby the people of New Zealand who tell the truth and are very adamant about it find themselves in hot water with the government relatively quickly and extraordinarily underhanded and in some cases very illegal means in order to shut them up and prevent them from continuing to be a threat to the narrative that the government puts across. So if I were to look at a list of the things that are happening, I mean, besides what happens to me, the New Zealand government has back doors to Facebook, X, and various other forms of social media here, YouTube. So they don't need to ask Facebook to restrict your account. The government can just do it. You see? They have a direct line to all of the social media that people are using, perhaps with the exception to a couple of outlets, say, for example, Rumble and BitChute, etc. But because of the New Zealand censorship laws, they're able to actually censor parts of the internet, including specific videos on, say, for example, Rumble and BitChute. So I'm not the only one that's been affected by this. I would probably hazard a guess and say that almost everybody has been affected in one way or another that has tried to do what I've been doing, which is giving voice to the truth. Now, personally, I was never an activist. You know, in the strictest sense of the word. I wasn't reading government documents and filing Official Information Act requests and going to court in order to shore up the government and so on and so forth. What I was doing is I was finding the people who were doing that and then interviewing them for a couple of hours in an uncensored conversation so that they're able to give you a massive download of all this research that they've been doing for, in some cases, decades of their life. And they can compress that information into such a significant way that it totally blows your mind. And that's why I consider my show objectively the best show that this country has ever produced in terms of a news program, because of the fact that we had direct access to those people who were telling the truth and unfettered access to them. They're not being questioned all the time. There's no list of questions. There's just straight up honesty. Tell us who you are. Tell us what you do. And I'm just going to listen there to what they say and respond to what they've said. That's what a conversation is. And to this day, I haven't actually seen any other outlet that has come out in New Zealand for truth or whatever that has followed that model that I pioneered and proved to be successful. The most successful alternative media speaker in the country ever, and probably the most successful that there will ever be in the foreseeable future, because I used straight up honesty and empathy with the people who were sacrificing their time, their money, and their safety in order to get the truth out to people, even when they didn't want to listen. I wanted to listen to them. And in many cases, a lot of these activists were about to commit suicide or stop being activists at the time that I interviewed them, and they are still alive today, and they're still activists today, and they credit me with that. So
Nice.
when we look at the rest of the country's alternative media, I can't really criticize somebody who's doing something, okay? Not really. I can criticize people who are doing nothing, and I know that there's a lot of people listening right now who are doing absolutely nothing to help the truth be out there. They're not donating, they're not sharing posts, they're not commenting, they're not broadcasting, they're not interviewing, and they're not publishing any of their own content. And that is extraordinarily cowardly and dangerous to the future of any kind of free society, because it is the people who do nothing that are, I think, in many ways the most dangerous for a society, because whether it's apathy, ignorance, laziness, or cowardice, those four horsemen of the apocalypse that Mark Passio talks about, they are all responsible for the downfall of society. So regardless of whether or not I agree with somebody who's a truth broadcaster who has a severe personality disorder, who lies, who is mean to me, who defames me, I still give them props and support, because at the very least they are publishing and they are broadcasting and they are putting at least some truth out there, as opposed to those massive quantities of people who are doing absolutely nothing, who should be effing ashamed of themselves.
You tell him, brother. And you tell it more eloquently than Mark Passio. He really goes on rants. It's fun to watch him. He just like, fuck tards!
I remember one time I was listening to him, and Mark Passio is like talking about the excuses people are making for not getting on the truth battlefield, that kind of thing. And I think the words he used, and I'll never forget it. I don't give a rat fuck what you're doing.
Yes.
Just, yeah.
Got to the point where I would tune into him just to see what the latest rant was, and boy, he could really get pissed.
Like, he hates things, he hates with an absolute passion, and that passion is very much frowned upon by people who are complete pussies, who take shit lying down, right? They see anybody ranting, angry, or swearing, that kind of thing. It just turns them right off. And I say that's why Mark Passio is the human litmus test for the truth movement. Are you really into truth? Then you'll be able to listen to Mark Passio without freaking out and having your sensibilities fucked with. Right? If you're really into truth, that is probably, he's the most offensive, and rightly so, and good on him, truth teller that I've ever seen, because he literally says it like it actually, provably, objectively is. Right? Regardless of the flavor, it is still the same ice cream.
I always liked him because his name fits perfectly into passionate. It's like he was very passionate about, well, he is. I shouldn't talk about him in the past tense. He's still out there doing his thing, but just not as often. I think he's giving courses now or something. I actually met somebody here in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, who was taking one of his courses like last year, where he was trying to teach people, trying to get over his rants and trying to like, okay, these people are fucktards. Let's just deal with it. Let's teach them how to use social media and computers and all this so that they can become part of the great network.
The One Great Work Network, which I was on for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, he's a trooper for sure.
It's who you can inspire, and he said for a long time, it's just like, my way is not the only way of doing it. Okay, if you don't like how I'm doing it, take the objective information that I'm giving and take the style out of it. Do it in your own style, just as long as it's true. And that's all permissible. You can go online right now, ladies and gentlemen, to whatonearthishappening.com, go to Mark Passio's website, and steal every single presentation or podcast he's ever done, reword it in your own way, and rebroadcast it, right? He's encouraged people to do that. In my opinion, he's probably one of the only people who's ever actually really done that. Because the truth is objective regardless of how you say it. There's only two things you can guarantee about it. It is what it is, and it isn't what it isn't.
Have any of your videos that you lost ended up on that channel?
I think I joined them after my channel went down. So I did spend when I was on a film project called Grindspot, that fell through. I was really, really upset. Like I think maybe the most upset about anything that I've ever been in my life, getting kicked off of the Grindspot movie. That really, really effed me off. I was writing it, I was directing it, I was editing it, I was producing it, I was making coffees and getting food for people and all of that kind of thing, and rehearsing the act. I was doing freaking everything I could in order to get that movie going, and then they just oust me, without even so much as a warning, and that hurt me so much that I went straight immediately to try and do something productive, because that's what happens when I get hurt. I try to retool and rearm and go back out there and do something productive in other ways. So that's when I found out that 40% of my hard drives had failed, because I went through them. I think I had 16 in total hard drives. That's on average one a year, ranging from 1 terabyte to 4 terabyte hard drives that were just full of shows that I'd done. I was quite prolific, and that's when I discovered that 40% of those shows had been deleted, in terms of those hard drives don't work anymore. So I spent a month or two uploading as much as 3 of my older shows per day onto a spectrum of social media to try and claw back, a bit of what I lost. But it was just like, it was about 4,000 shows that I had to do that with. I wasn't able to finish it.
That sounds suspicious that many hard drives would fail. Did they zap you or something with some kind of hard drive?
These drives hadn't been plugged in some cases a decade. I just,
and they fail if you don't do that.
Yeah, I mean that's why most very important digital companies will have backups. Right, maybe 3 hard drives going at any one time, backing up the exact same thing. So in case one fails, you've got the 2 backups, and if the on the extremely off chance one of the backups fails, you've got another one. Whereas I could only ever afford to have 1 hard drive at a time, and then my computer fills up with all these shows that I'm doing, dump it onto a hard drive, boom, get another hard drive, plug it in, start loading it up with all the shows that I'm doing, and then dump it when I'm done. done, that kind of thing. I was just doing a run and gun type operation here. I was never trained how to edit. I was never trained how to be a talk radio show host or a comedian or a meme writer or a writer or a singer or any of the other various creative elements that I did. I learned that by paying attention to people who already had those skills and had conversations with them and incorporated some of the things that they knew, but I didn't actually have any kind of like full-time from I know nothing now and then somebody spent all their time teaching me how to do one thing. That never happened to me. I had to do all of the work to a large degree by myself without any support. And I've become quite proficient across the board in all of these avenues of media production. And nowadays, occasionally, when people want to, they'll ask me if I can show them how to do this. And I think it took me about maybe between 6 and 9 years to get the full spectrum of knowledge and practice that I had. I can teach that to somebody in a couple of days, right? So they can save themselves practically a decade of fumbling around in the dark and just suddenly, oh, it's all set up now. Oh my God, I know how everything works. All of a sudden, kind of thing. Because of the way that I explain things and the way that I do things, I don't use a huge amount of jargon. Jargon was created by nerds and professionals so that they could put a moat around their income sources and just to make everything sound so complicated that you couldn't possibly do it yourself. And so you'll just have to pay me perpetually for the rest of your life a huge amount of money for stuff that you could do yourself, but I've made it sound so complicated that you thought that you couldn't.
I would say that's academia in general, but definitely the tech world is in on that as well.
It's the entire spectrum of everything, every skill that you could possibly learn.
It certainly is. Well, now we're getting hit with AI, which is a whole other mind-fucking reality that we're facing in 2026. It's like all of a sudden we're hearing... If things weren't bad enough, it's like, okay, AI's taking all your jobs and robots are going to replace you. And guess what? Humanity, you're not needed anymore. So let's just put you out to pasture and let the wolves consume you in the middle of the night. Very cheerful times we live in.
But depending on what you're focusing on, right? Like I say, the poison must be consumed with the cure. And truth is such a poisonous thing when all you have been consuming previously in your life is lies. I remember I had a conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and he said, well, I think that the only reason people believe in conspiracy theories is because it makes them feel better to know that at least there's somebody in charge. I was like, really? Child-sacrificing Satanists in charge of the entire world's military and industry and political and religious and media makes me feel comfortable? Are you fucking retarded? All right? Fucking Jesus Christ. What is up with these people? How could you be that inert? And so hopelessly dependent on the system that you would want to fight to defend it. And I think the answer is because all the industries that would tell you how to think or what to think in any way, shape or form generally are controlled by these same psychopathic individual control freaks who are working in concert against the one thing that could defeat them: human consciousness. You want to defeat the New World Order? It's down to consciousness, man. If 51% of people believe something, know something, that's going to be a massive conscious shift in the very fabric of reality. That's why in Nevada it's called Area 51, because they know the number value of 51 and what importance it has once more than half of people are capable of absorbing a new idea that freedom and truth and love are very important, and the truth comes first. Your love comes second, and then your freedom comes third. And then your freedom backs up your truth, and your truth backs up your love, and your love backs up your freedom. You see, it all starts with truth. And as Faithless, the song Lion Tamer, maybe it's Faithless, I forget off the top, that if you place a thing in the center of your life that lacks the power to nourish, it will eventually poison and destroy everything that you are. No one can be the source of your content. It lies within, in the center. And I believe that there's a very, very lucrative industry out there that is being paid billions to prevent people from recognizing their own strength, their own power, and to get them into lives of mediocrity and meaninglessness. Because it is beneficial to the quote-unquote powers that be to disarm people psychologically, intellectually, even physically, to make them no longer a threat. Anybody who can think, anybody who can fight, anybody who can feel is a threat to the New World Order. It's the antithesis to everything that they are, and they're using 1,000 different means 1,000 different times a day to try and destroy the human spirit and the advancement of human consciousness that will threaten them and prevent their plans coming to fruition. And it is people like me and Mark Passio and David Icke, who you can all see on, I could probably say it's objectively maybe the best show you will ever see, ladies and gentlemen, from anybody, anywhere, at any time. You watch that show with Vinny Eastwood, Mark Passio and David Icke. It's on YouTube now. You can watch it for free. You will see how big of a danger we are to the unconscious humanity who cry out for freedom.
Well, I would say that every industry is geared towards bending human consciousness to their will. But yes, especially the ones you mentioned. I'll definitely include this video in the links down below because this is a good video. You can't go wrong with Mark Passio or David Icke. So is this really just 4 months ago?
No. It was uploaded 4 months ago, but this was done in, I think, 2023?
Okay, this is
2022.
Well, that's only 3 years old.
4 years old, yeah. At this point in time, anyway.
But I guess 3 years these days is like a decade used to be.
Have you noticed that? Like, it seemed like only last week that we were getting locked down, you know?
The whole time thing is like so
dilation
weird because some things seem a long time ago and some things seem like 2 weeks ago, and they could have happened at the same time. That's what's really trippy about it. They say we've entered the twilight zone, and it really feels like we have.
Yeah, I'm having a big inspiration all the time now, because I've realized that meaninglessness is something that most people feel. Have you noticed that? Like people's lives don't have real purpose and real meaning in it. And because my life has purpose and my life has meaning, I'm actually incredibly grateful for that. You know, there's a lot of people who can't say that they've got that in their life, and I do. And I'm so grateful to be able to have that, and so grateful to have anybody want to interview me. Thank you, Mike. Or anybody want to listen to me.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, viewers, you know, and listeners, and wherever you're from, or how whatever much is done to you, this is kind of one of the most important thoughts I thought that I ever had to share with an audience, is just think about it clearly for just a moment. Think about who you are. Think about the things that you've done in your life for the cause of good. You know, whether it's helping an old lady across the street or interviewing Mark Passio, David Icke, whatever. It doesn't matter. Are you doing good that makes the world a better place? And then think about all the things that have been done to you. Think about all the horrible things you've suffered. Think about what the people have done to you. You didn't lose your moral compass. You didn't lose your sense of humour. You didn't lose your sense of right and wrong. You kept going. And you kept being a good person because you chose to do the right thing. That was your choice, even though all the elements told you to pick the easy way out. You chose the hard thing that most people are far too cowardly and apathetic and ignorant and lazy to do. You made the right choice. Even with all of the terrible ingredients that were chucked into the possible meal, you made a banquet of your awesomeness. And you shouldn't fucking forget that. Okay? Remember that. Anytime any of these pathetic individuals in this world try to tread on you, remember who you are, remember what you've been through, and remember how special and important you are, and that you are better than them. You are. It's not an arrogant thing to say that you are better than the majority of people. The only question is whether or not you use those abilities for good to shepherd the weak through the valley of darkness, or you use it for evil, for your own aggrandizement and personal gain. And you made the right choice, and you are awesome. And it's okay to accept that fact about yourself. It's okay to pat yourself on the back. Just say, hey, you know what? Good on you. You did it, mate. You fucking did it. Everybody else was trying to downtrod me and trying to destroy me, but I lived. I survived. I made something that was worth making. I did something that was worth doing. And these people couldn't stop me because I was too powerful, and I still am. That is who you fucking are, and there's nothing they can do to stop you. That makes you awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Because if it was just me and Mark Passio and David Icke doing it, we don't got this. It's only because of people like you that this movement has any chance of succeeding. You are critical to the future of mankind. Protect yourself. Know your value. Because I see it. And I know that you are valued and you are loved.
Wow, I didn't know you were moonlighting as a preacher. You just stated that perfectly.
Well, thank you.
Amazing.
Has to be said.
Has to be said, and you said it quite eloquently. So, wow. What else is there to report about what's going on in New Zealand these days?
1080 drops, I guess. You ever heard of monofluoroacetate?
What is it?
Monofluoroacetate, compound 1080. It's a fluoride compound, and it's one of the most toxic substances known to man. And New Zealand dumps it into our pristine bush and waterways. And it
Really?
can be an endocrine disruptor in people who drink that drinking water in the parts per trillion. Right? And that stuff has been dumped all over the place, and the people who are dumping it, like the local city councils and things of that nature, those city councillors in many cases have shares in the pesticide producing companies. So they're literally lining their own pockets at a cost to the genetic purity of the country. Okay? And
Oh my God.
like all out, like if I went out there and killed a native New Zealand bird, like tui or a fantail or something of that nature, they're beautiful birds. If I killed one of them, a kiwi, yeah, sure. They're much harder to find because they only cruise around in the dark, but they're much easier to catch because they can't fly. But I digress. It's the reason why Kiwis were nearing extinction when the New Zealand Māori were the only ones living here, because it was a really freezing country and they were Pacific people, and the only way that they could keep themselves warm was by killing the national bird and stealing its feathers and making cloaks out of them. But anyway, I digress. When we have a huge amount of problems being caused downstream, even at something in a concentration of parts per trillion, you've got a whole lot of different health effects that can come from that. Birth defects, for example. We're having children born with organs outside of their bodies, or young boys being born with multiple urethras, just like on how the guy was threatened on Team America World Police that he would drill different holes in his dick so that when he pisses it shoots out in all different directions. There are kids being born like that in New Zealand because of 1080 drops. And the environmental protection for this is basically non-existent because it is so expensive to test for 1080 poisoning at those low concentrations that they simply refused to test for it. And so therefore the country is given this clean green image as being poison and pesticide free. How can they guarantee that? Because they never fucking look. I love it. And like, if you got for example, I believe the very first groundwater survey that ever occurred in New Zealand, I think it was done in like 2008 or 2009 or something. I was talking to what's his name? Clyde Graff from the Graff Boys. They made this wonderful documentary that you can watch on YouTube called Poisoning Paradise about 1080. And they also made public one year about the groundwater surveys they were going. 90-something% of New Zealand's groundwater, like the aquifers, the stuff that you drill down to make bores and things like that, is contaminated with battery acid, herbicides, pesticides, 1080, fluoride, glyphosate, so on and so forth. All of these poisonous, endocrine disruption, cancer-causing chemicals are in the drinking water. And under European drinking water standards, it's very, very different to New Zealand. For example, you're allowed 1,000 times the amount of glyphosate in New Zealand drinking water standards than they allow in the European Union. 1,000 times as much poison we're allowed. And
wow.
Okay, and that's just what's in the drinking water. You know, think about what's in the air with electromagnetic wireless radiation. You know, people who have got their 4G and their 5G and their Wi-Fi going everywhere. I mean, even if you're living in an apartment in New York City and you look for a Wi-Fi signal, you must be getting bombarded with like 60 or 100 or even 1,000 of them simultaneously. And this stuff's really bad for you, man. And the reason why New Zealand has a really high cancer rate in some cases is because of the EMF protection standards that are going on here. Now, for example, in my office, I had Paul Waddell from safespace.net.nz, who is a specialist in electrosensitivity and testing locations for their ambient EMF wireless radiation. He came into my office one time and we tested it 40,000 milligauss. You know, it was like pretty high. And so we turned off and we replaced the keyboards with wired keyboards. Still 40,000 milligauss. So we turned off the Bluetooth mouses and we replaced them with wired mouses. Still 30,000 milligauss. So we changed the light bulbs from LED to incandescent. Still 30,000 milligauss. So we turned off the Wi-Fi router and suddenly we dropped to 4 milligauss. You know, ideal is 0, but the reason why we still had very, very high signals, even as we were turning off one thing after the other, is because you can only measure the highest signal in the room. But your body doesn't measure like that. Your body takes everything along cumulatively. So if I had 3 Bluetooth mouses and 3 Bluetooth keyboards and 3 computers with Wi-Fi, plus 1 Wi-Fi router, plus the lights, that's 11 sources of 30 to 40,000 milligauss. And you add those together, that's hundreds of thousands of milligauss that your body's interpreting simultaneously. Now, under New Zealand's EMF protection standards, you're allowed legally up to 1 million milligauss. That is because if it doesn't burn you instantly or start cooking you instantly, according to the law in New Zealand, it's safe.
Oh my God! Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
So Sauron has truly taken over Middle Earth.
We just call him Ron.
It's a most desperate hour. Wow.
Right, and we're going through an election year right now, and it's really sad because under New Zealand electoral law, as I said before, it's totally legal to lie to voters. Okay?
Oh, of course it is.
and what's great about that is no previous government can bind you. So they can give you rights one day. In fact, governments never really grant anybody rights. People have to fight for them. And if they lose them, they have to fight to get them back because the government never surrenders its power willingly. At the moment, we've got a number of political parties fighting for control, and all of them are under the power of Parliament. And right next to Parliament House is the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. And right behind the front desk of the Reserve Bank of New Zealand is the Rothschild family crest. Okay? And what happens, according to Alistair Barry's documentary, Someone Else's Country, which I believe is still on YouTube, you can watch it, Someone Else's Country by Alistair Barry. There's these interviews where these sitting politicians will say that what happened was we got elected as Prime Minister and then we get called in by Treasury, who work for the Reserve Bank owned by the Rothschilds. And they say, Mr. Prime Minister, congratulations. Well, thank you very much. Now, unfortunately, we've got some bad news. Oh, yeah? What bad news? Well, unfortunately, the previous government was covering up a massive economic crisis. And in order to stop that crisis from triggering a full economic collapse, they borrowed huge amounts of money at interest from foreign banks that we control. And so if you make promises to the public like you've been making about improving the economy and, auditing criminal banks and things of that nature, the economy will collapse and we'll make sure the public knows that it was you who collapsed it. Okay? Do you have any questions? Well, only what my agenda is. You can't win! And even if you vote, if your party that you vote for, like let's say you vote for one of these little parties, there's one that Calvin Out from Counterspin is in charge of at the moment, called New Zealand Loyal. And if they contest the election and you vote for them and they don't win, all those votes that they got fizzle out. They don't do anything. Okay? Not only that, not only do they fizzle out and not do anything, those votes get given by proxy to the parties that did get in. So if you've got the National Socialists and the Communist Socialists, which are the National Party and the Labour Party, respectively, if you voted for New Zealand Loyal and New Zealand Loyal doesn't get past the 5% threshold in order to be represented in Parliament, then the National Party and the Labour Party get given that less than 5% of the votes into their coffers as counting as support for them. You see? They evenly distribute all of the votes that are unsuccessful, okay, by proxy. So if you vote, your vote gets given by proxy to the winners if your party doesn't win, and because you are fighting for truth and justice and freedom and so on and so forth, the billionaires who are financing, mostly through pharmaceutical companies and alcohol companies, the current New Zealand establishment and banks, of course, you're not going to get in. And in fact, you're only going to make the government more powerful. Now, if you refuse to participate in the system and you don't vote, your non-vote is taken as consent and is also acted upon as though you did cast a vote for the winners. You see? You fucking beauty! You they've got it stitched right the fuck up! You just... I love it! I love this country! It's an elected dictatorship, and people think they're living in a free country of some description, and it's just not true, ladies and gentlemen. It's just not true. And until 51% of the population actually works that out, because of the work of myself and John Ansell and various other activists who have been working for a lot of years of their life to try and bring this stuff to light, ain't nothing significant going to change. And people need to be significantly more cynical. And that will occur after the point when you become jaded. All right? This is the two most important elements of a good journalist. They are cynical and jaded. What does jaded mean? Jaded means you have experienced such a wide array of extraordinary stimuli and fear and amazement and stuff like that. Oh my God, that's occurring! Until eventually, somebody can come along to somebody like me and just with the most shocking, horrible information that they've ever heard in their life. And I go like, yeah.
And? Pretty much. Yeah.
Right. That's what being jaded is. Now, what is being cynical? All right. Cynical comes from the Roman philosopher Senecus, right? And he believed that you shouldn't actually believe in things. You should demand to be convinced with facts and evidence. That's what being cynical means. That's why good journalists are jaded and cynical. And so should the public. There. And so should the public be.
So I take it you're on the Mark Passio list of those who support the fact that government is slavery. Because it really does seem to be the fact. Especially these days when they don't even hide it anymore. It's like, even here in the good old USA, where we're supposedly a democracy or a republic, whichever one you want to tout it as, hey, we're still slaves to the corporate will. Whatever they want, they get their ways.
Mm-hmm.
So we really are an oligarchy in different name. And I guess for those who have researched enough, I don't know how New Zealand worked, but we became a corporation in 1871 after the Civil War, and it's never been the same, and it's been a gradual erosion ever since. I guess you're a commonwealth there, so you pretty much are under the thumb of England, right?
Well, I mean, New Zealand is still a former British banking colony. Okay, as part of the reason why they set up New Zealand in the first place was to launder money from for the Bank of England. That was the reason why the Cayman Islands was set up as a British banking colony as well. You're starting to see the pattern. Right, the Panama paper leaks, which what was that, in 2016 or something like that? I can't remember exactly what year it was, but I do remember that New Zealand was mentioned in this. This is the biggest money laundering leaks of all time. Okay, and New Zealand was mentioned somewhat of like 66,000 times in those things. There is a river of dirty...
There might be a pattern there.
Dirty laundering money coming through this country. And I remember the famed Penny Bright, I've got her on my wall up there watching over me, God rest her soul. And she told me about this guy who was formerly of Scotland Yard, and he came to New Zealand, and what he did internationally is he went to countries that potentially were corrupt and found out whether or not they were. And when he came to New Zealand, he said something along the lines of, I've worked in 46 countries that were corrupt, and New Zealand is by far the most corrupt country in the world. All right? Big statement.
Wow.
Big frickin' statement. And people will be flabbergasted. How can that be? You know, we're at the top of Transparency International's corruption perception index as being generally accepted to be one of the world's least corrupt countries, maybe top three at least, usually number one. And the reason why that is because the members of Transparency International New Zealand, the members of the board of Transparency International New Zealand, are among some of the most corrupt pieces of shit that this country's ever produced. And the questionnaire that Transparency International sends around every year in order to compile their corruption perception index, keyword, perception, is a voluntary disclosure statement. So it works like this. So, New Zealand, you guys got any corruption over there? And New Zealand says, why no? We don't. And send the form back blank.
Oh my God, seriously?
You can't make this shit up. All right, it's just so good. They've got it locked down, man. Right, you have to marvel at their absolute will. This is something Mark Passio talks about, is about the will of the New World Order. They will do things that you and I will not, and that is why they're winning right now. Okay? There's a lot of people around there saying, oh yeah, we're winning, Vinny, you don't need to worry, just trust the plan and stuff like that. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Alright? Child trafficking numbers are up. World wars are still going on. Debt's highest it's ever been. Corruption's the worst it's ever been. What fucking metric are you looking at thinking that the problems are being solved? They're not. They're just getting worse. Principally because a lot of people trust the plan and therefore abdicate their personal responsibility of doing anything about the ruthless criminal sociopathic scumbaggery who are absolutely subjugating and destroying the very subsets of human life and freedom and consciousness. Okay? Don't abdicate your responsibility. You are responsible. If you're living in this place and you know that any of this stuff is going on, don't let anybody else do your fighting for you. You have to get on the field. You have to do something. Anything other than nothing is fine by me. Just don't do nothing.
I get a kick out of people who say they want to escape the United States because of the political situation and move to places like New Zealand. As bad as it is here, I think you definitely have it worse over there. Yeah. No doubt about it.
I remember our judges, for example, local court justices. I think it was like, what was it? Vince Seamer from KiWisFirst.co.nz. I once had him on the show, and he said that, Vinny, out of the 167 judges that we have in New Zealand, 160 of them are related by first cousin at least. You want to get an independent trial in a New Zealand court? Good
First
luck,
cousin.
buddy. You know.
What's the population in New Zealand? Like
About
5 million or something?
around about 5 million.
That's so tiny.
Yeah. I mean, you can imagine the Dukes of Hazzard had a better chance of exposing corruption than we do.
So you're all related there.
Yeah, I mean, you may as well be. Again, it's like my former producer, the somewhat fabulous Mr. Mitch Santel, used to say that New Zealand is a small town pretending to be a country.
That's a great way to put it. Well, everybody's heard over here, at least, that there are more sheep in New Zealand than there are people.
There's 30 times.
I don't know if that's true, but that's the what everybody thinks.
Yeah, I think there was something like 30 times as many sheep as there are people, whereas I choose to think it's just 31 times as many sheep as they thought.
I'm sure you're including some of the human population in that sheep count.
Yeah.
But that's beside the fact. What hope do you see for New Zealand? We all have to like operate on some kind of hope for things turning around, even though it seems rather hopeless a lot of the time.
So in order to manufacture hope, what I figured out is the key is to lie to myself. All right? There is...
Self-delusion often solves that problem.
Bro, there's just so much hope, and we're gonna win. We're gonna beat them all. There ain't no problem we can't overcome. These lies that I tell to myself on a daily basis so that I don't get depressed are extremely important. Okay, every hope is good, especially false hope. It doesn't matter whether or not what you're hoping in is true. Just believe it.
And do something about it, obviously.
I mean,
it's really like any battlefield. It's like, are you just going to give up and, or are you going to like fight?
The consequence of giving up.
Why you still have some breath in your lungs.
So you're talking about a dark future where you'd be stuck in a box 4 meters by 4 meters alongside a railroad track, and you'd be surveilled in everything you do, everything you say, everything you even think, and you read your mind and that kind of stuff. And you'll probably never leave that apartment block that you were born in. Okay, and you'd never be able to think an original thought. You'd never go any place that you've never been before. That will be your life. That will be the life of everybody who is alive in humanity for the next 1,000 years. A living nightmare of unimaginable totalitarian proportions that has never been seen before. That is what will happen should you fail, ladies and gentlemen. Okay?
That sounds like that scene in Lord of the Rings where Frodo gets the lecture. It's like, if you do not find a way, nobody will. And then they show the scenes of the slavery system, and that's pretty much not hyperbole. That's really where we're at.
It's what Samwise Gamgee said to Frodo, that it's like in the great stories, the ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were, and sometimes you didn't want to know the end, because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, the shadow. A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it will shine out the clearer. Those are the stories that meant something. Those are the stories that stayed with you, even if you were too small to understand why. And the folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going because they were holding on to something, that there's some good in this world and it's worth fighting for.
Amen. Good job. You have that totally memorized. That was a great Sam speech there. I think it was was it in the second one?
Mm-hmm.
Twin Towers. Wow.
And imagine if they hadn't released the Two Towers because of 9/11 had just happened, and they're like, should we release the Two Towers at this point? But 9/11, I love that scene in Family Guy where Peter's wife, what was her name, Lois, she gets up and she wins a local council election because every question she answered with 9/11. What are you going to do about the terrible streets and the terrible condition they're in? And 9/11, and everyone, yeah!
that show, so much disclosure in that show.
Yeah.
It's crazy, even more so than The Simpsons.
Well, it's part of the whole satanic mind fuckery that they try to get away with, is that if they don't tell you what they're going to do, and if you don't consent to it, because you've been told and you just let them get away with it kind of thing, that karma's on you, okay? And they don't want the karma to be on them, so they have to tell you about it. I'm going to rape your wife. What are you going to do about it? And if you do nothing, then they've X'd out the karma that could be backfired to them. That's why they create these hierarchical systems full of people and soldiers and bureaucrats and police officers and all of that kind of stuff. Because if they tell somebody to go and hurt you or destroy your country and that person does it, the karma's on that person, not the person who gave them the order. You see, they've figured out how the universe works and they are obeying its rules and preventing you from finding out what those rules are, because that would give you power. Knowledge is power, and they guard it very well.
I'm not convinced, though, that they're really covering their asses karmically. I mean, deception is a sin in pretty much every religious system. So if they're just putting this out to you in a movie or a book that you've never read, how are you supposed to consent to that?
Because
they can't.
It was out there, just like in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Guy was really upset that all of a sudden they're building a highway through his home and about to knock it down with these huge dozers and so on and so forth. But you were put on notice. And he goes, yeah, but that notice was underground in a council building on a wall behind a big stack of filing cabinets that were blocking the wall. Yes, but we did put you on notice, and we did and we did, by your silence, get consent. You see, that's why Mark Passio talks about the forgotten word, which is also the most powerful word. No,
indeed. And that's partially true because people not being aware is consenting. That's why we have to learn about this stuff, no matter how horrible it is to learn it. Because if you just passively go, nope, I don't want to deal with that, no, la la la, la la la, that is a form of consent.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not protesting it.
Yep.
So
and
basically,
even then, protesting is not actually a act of resistance either. When a captain says fire on that ship full of innocent civilians, his chief in command will say, I will officially protest that order. and then he puts it down on the log and then fires on the vessel anyway. You see, protesting is a measure of consent. Okay? Protesting doesn't really change anything per se. It is what the individual does, and it is the consequence upon those people that are in control, right? Dr. Rima Labo talked about how the world is in a interesting place whereby it is humanity that is losing every major battle, every skirmish, every battle, every war that has ever been fought by the New World Order against humanity. The New World Order has won. Hands fucking down, they have won. Why? Because we're on the defensive. You can't win a war on the defensive. We have to go on the attack. Okay? We have to strategize. We have to organize. We have to mobilize against their lies. You see? It's only then that we shall have victory, when people really want it enough that they are prepared to die to obtain it. That is the people that you are very difficult to enslave and destroy, is the people who would rather die than be slaves.
But unfortunately, it's gotten to the point where people would rather die being slaves. And that's pretty sad. We're pretty pathetic these days compared to our ancestors.
Yeah.
Who kept this tyranny at bay for generations and generations. And here we are in the 21st century. And it just seems so overwhelming. And, you know, it's like to the average person who hasn't studied this, even somebody like me or like you, who's like been studying this dark stuff for a long time, it seems pretty dark and daunting. But for somebody who hasn't, who's just getting into this for the first time, it's like, I'm going to faint. I can't handle this.
It's completely overwhelming. It's too much.
Overwhelming.
Right. It's 10,000 hours. All right. That's how much. If you're listening right now and you've never heard anything like this before, and you don't quite understand it, and you feel relatively overwhelmed by it, all I'm asking you to do is spend 10,000 hours watching documentaries, listening to radio shows. Why do you think conspiracy theorists get so pissed off when they get called conspiracy theorists? Because they've spent 10,000 hours looking at this shit that you haven't even fucking heard of, you dipshit. Shut the fuck up. Listen to people who've done their fucking research for once in your miserable, pathetic, meaningless life. You might learn something. You might find that your life actually has a purpose. Okay? You know, maybe that might be an idea worthy of merit. You frickin'... I put this thing in a group one time, just asking an industry of people whether or not they lost their jobs because they didn't take the jab or refused to wear the mask, and would they be interested in joining a project where that wouldn't happen to them, you know, where they'd be valued whether or not they did that, and. It was interesting because this is an industry that is generally full of, you know, creative types of people, and the amount of vitriol and abuse and name calling and basically completely immature, uninformed opinions that came as a result of just asking those questions, wasn't even making any assertions, right? Was actually quite it floored me. I was flabbergasted for a few moments. And then I realized something very important. I have a very large block list of people on social media that can never contact me or see my stuff ever again. And thus, my block list grew that day.
Probably doubled or tripled in size at least.
No, just a fraction. My block list takes days to scroll to the.
But those are the people that need to be reached the most, so it's kind of a hard.
Yeah.
Hard.
But again,
you know. But then again, you can't sustain abuse if people are just roadblocks.
Yeah.
So
those people, like, because I'm an empath, you know, I feel that shit. That's why I have to take time off from the show from time to time, because I can't talk to somebody about being raped by her father, who was a Freemason, and doing surgeries on her and stuff like that without feeling it a little bit. And so I've got to
for sure
shake that off. And
you do need to shake that off.
And thus the participation that you engage in online content, you have to have a very low tolerance to people who are ignorant. Okay, what's the opposite of ignorance? Is nescience. Okay, ignorance is the information has been presented to you and you've chosen to ignore it, hence ignorance. Nescience is the information exists, but you've never come across it before. That's nescience, you see? Two very different things. If you're abusive, ignorant, don't care, I don't have to try and save your ass anymore. You have just given me all the information that I need about your character. That being that you fucking don't have one. Okay?
Basically.
There are currently 9 billion people in the world, bro. Do you think you're worth my fucking time? If I'm sieving through the bulk of humanity, if you're going to treat me like that? Hell no, you are not worth my time. You ain't worth anything. You're going to die. You're going to get enslaved, subsequently exterminated, or die from some kind of preventable disease because of your own actions. And that's not my problem, okay? That's your fault. And that is your responsibility, not mine, and I don't have to put up with your bullshit, okay? Oh, bye-bye. Now, when you do that to people, they can be really upset. That's why you block them, so that they can't reply to you further. And the whole...
Indeed.
All right, you know, I've been doing this a long time. You know,
the art of blocking.
You come up with a specific methodology. And sometimes you really stir the hornet's nest, and you get a whole bunch of people that need to be blocked. So I call it the chicken protocol. Block, 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 block. You know, it works every time. And it's. You know, when you were a teenager and you found those big, fat, juicy pimples and you're like, oh, that looks unsightly. And then you get that satisfaction when you squeeze that gunk out of it, right? It's kind of like that. This is...
How can we not forget those days? You know, that was one of the pleasures of being a teenager, is just popping a zit in the mirror.
Ah, those were the days. But as David Icke said to me, you can't convince anybody of anything, but you can tell them things that they cannot unhear. So this is the information grenade approach, right? Dr. Rima Labour told me that on average it'll take the seventh man principle, or this is what I've called it anyway. One person comes up to you and says something that's very strongly against your deeply held belief. And this is one person from one social circle at one time in your life telling you this thing that is opposite to your beliefs. You will tell them, invariably, fuck off, you're a conspiracy theorist. Now, by the time you get to the seventh person, from a seventh different social circle, at a seventh different time in your life, coming up and telling you the exact same thing that you would ordinarily vehemently disagree with, by the time you get to that seventh man, that is statistically when you will consider changing that belief. Okay? So this is the information grenade approach. You pull the pin, you chuck it in, and it blows up in their face later. You don't have to convince them. Say one thing and walk away. I can see the frustration that a lot of my listeners have had, because every day or every Christmas they have arguments with their families about stuff that they've already told them that their families don't believe yet, don't know yet, and don't want to know, because They haven't had 6 other people tell them from those other groups and times in their lives. Okay? That's not your frickin' problem. One thing is all you need to say, and they cannot unhear it. And hopefully, at some point, maybe, you don't know, maybe they'll wake up to it eventually once they've talked to the 7th man, who may, in fact, be you at that point. You ever been at a party and somebody comes up to you and has a conversation with them and you tell them a couple of things and you see the penny drop for them? Whoa. You know, actually some other guys have been talking to me about that. And so, you know, you've got them. You know? And that's the problem, though, is that sometimes the truth can be terribly overwhelming. And it takes practice. It's like a skill. Knowing when to shut your mouth because somebody ain't ready for it.
Indeed, and we've all made that mistake of going too far too fast.
We've all had that experience. I wouldn't say it's a mistake, because experiences train us in the skills, and every bad thing that happens to you is training for something that you will do in the future, and at that point, you will be ready for it.
Good point. How so we've been going about an hour now? More?
I don't know.
Are you keeping track of time?
I don't know. We started about 1 o'clock. It's now 3 o'clock, so we're bang on about 2 hours. All right.
Wow.
That sounds about
Damn.
right, doesn't it?
It sounds about right. Yes. Well, give us some optimistic closing words.
I think I've given you plenty of them, but
Give us more.
I'll give you the very basis. The person who actually got me into it, John Eisen from Uncensored. I've got a little poster from his Uncensored Symposium in 2009 on my wall up there. Like all the inspirations on my wall. This is like a little Vinny Eastwood museum up in here. He says these. He says these very simple 8 words. Okay, so if you come away from this interview only remembering 8 words, it should be these. Fuck them if they can't take a joke.
Indeed. So, tell us where we can follow you, where everybody can follow you, what your plans for the future are, and are you making a comeback right now?
I am not 100% sure. If somebody sponsors me $30 a month to pay for Zoom so I can actually continue to start interviewing people again, I will make that comeback. All right, it's absolutely certain. That is my pledge and my promise. If somebody starts doing that for me, I will purchase Zoom and I'll start interviewing people again every week to help to contribute again to this general malaise of trutherism that is out there. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with my work, it is voluminous, and I've interviewed basically, a good portion of the people that have ever really spoken up to any real significant level in the world in terms of truther and conspiracy circles. I've interviewed most of them. All right. Mm-hmm. Like you wouldn't believe the list of names that I could rattle off the top of my head. So be that as it may, this show is not for the uninitiated. The Vinny Eastwood Show is not for the uninitiated. You go to the Vinny Eastwood Show when you've just got no other choice. Okay? Like when you when you are so miserable and you feel like killing yourself and you've lost your sense of humor and you're beset by depression and you know so much and people don't listen to you, that is when you start listening to the Vinny Eastwood Show, because you will then ascend to the next level and come to the realization, hey, I know everything's really, really bad, but I'm now comforted by the fact that I've found something much, much worse. Vinny's jokes. So you can go to the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. That's Vinny with a Y because it's the most important question. And Eastwood, like, go ahead, make my news, and go ahead, make a donation and help me to survive and take care of my babies and continue this work of truth that I've been doing since 2008, 2007-ish. Okay, which is longer than anybody else in New Zealand ever has. I was the first person to actually start doing this properly, full-time, making the videos and doing the radio shows and attending the protests and interviewing the activists and all of that kind of stuff. I'm the first one who did it, and to this day, I'm the only one who's ever done it to the level that I have. And nobody will ever take that from me. And nobody will ever do better than I have done for the foreseeable future. I can guarantee you that. So go to the VinnyEastwoodShow.com and support me today. You can follow us through YouTube and Patreon to support us there, and Facebook is a good one, and Rumble and BitChute. There's all sorts of links and all sorts of pages on the homepage of the VinnyEastwoodShow.com for which you can get yourself stuck in and realize through my works and engaging with them quite a bit that you don't want to kill yourself after all, and you'd actually rather live and have a smile on your face and do something good in this world rather than allow it to do something bad to you.
And I suppose we all signed up to be at this particular juncture of the shit show we call Planet Earth in 2026. So here we are getting our Chinese fortune cookies worth of may you live in interesting times. Mm-hmm. Well, Vinny Eastwood, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. Of course, I'll put all your information and the links down below the video. And, well, I really do hope you're on a rebound here, ready to get back. Everybody should please support this man. He has interviewed some greats out there. I mean, David Icke, Mark Passio, doesn't get any more classic than that. That's just the beginning. He truly was a pioneer on the battlefield in the tiny country we call New Zealand, which is a lot more draconian than anything we have yet experienced in the United States. And believe me, we've experienced some draconian shit here. So, well, hopefully come back and join me again.
I'd love to.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure chatting with you. And everybody, please tune into Vinny's channel. And I'll catch you next time on High Vibe Tribe TV. Everybody have a good night and an even more pleasant tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Have an astonishing night, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.